recording to ensure it's saved. Perfect.
Yeah, it should be recording now. You guys can see that?
Yep.
All right, let's go.
I'm going muted mic now.
Okay, cool. What up, E?
Yo, what's going on? Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can. I don't have my AirPods in, so I just want to make sure the microphone in the MacBook Pro is sufficient.
Yeah, should be. Let's see. All right, cool. All right, I think it's on my story. You can go. How are you, man?
I'm good, bro. I'm heading off to California today.
No shit. Where are you going?
I'm going to Redwood City, so Bay Area.
Redwood City. What are you doing over there?
I'm visiting my aunt and my two cousins.
Hell yeah. And then
Yeah,
you think you'll return to Oregon after?
yeah, for sure. Cam's birthday is on Tuesday, so I'm gonna come back here for her birthday. But my aunt
Yeah.
works at Facebook. I'm gonna go kick it with her for a bit
Yeah.
and post up with my cousins. So
Wait,
it's
is
gonna be
this
fun.
the same auntie who used to be at Microsoft?
Yeah, but now she's running the legal team for all VR AR stuff at Facebook.
Damn. Damn. All right.
I know.
That's
In-
interesting.
Interesting, right? It's like because I think these mixed reality or these new realities are going to start to call into question a lot of fundamental things around human ethics. And I
Mm,
think like that's such an interesting role to be in when you're tasked with overseeing regulation around
yeah.
some of these things, and what that looks like. Because obviously companies move so much faster than actual regulation can move, right? So you kind of
Yeah.
it's interesting, man. She's got one of the more interesting roles out there.
Yeah, on planet Earth at the moment.
Yeah, yeah,
Augmented
yeah.
reality, and I think you and I have talked about this before, it's going to be our chance to reinvent everything.
Yeah. Mm.
Every single thing that is encapsulated in your mobile device, inside of your computer, inside of a television screen, like through AR and through the delimitations of a screen, it being displayed everywhere, it's going to be kind of the consolidation of all the different devices, but also the expansion into just the world is the palette. Like what does the internet browser look like when it's screenless?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it goes for every single app. So I feel like there's going to be a huge opportunity, almost like when we went from the desktop to mobile devices, like you could reinvent everything. That the same technology is going to enable augmented reality to invent a lot of new things too. Everything will
Mm.
become an interface.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Because
Yeah,
right now we just think of an interface as a screen, right? That's our primary interface. But now you have all these emerging interfaces, right? Like even voice interfaces, I think, are really interesting.
yeah.
Um,
Voice is interesting too. Um,
mm,
there's a couple of videos. These like futurists who like did some augmented reality stuff on. Have I sent you this augmented reality grocery store?
no.
Oh man, it's fucking wild. I feel like we can just go in this direction if we don't have anybody. Oh, here it is, Kanchi Media, man. Dude, this is what's gonna happen on Facebook when this shit happens. Let me see. Configure integrations, YouTube. Hold on. I gotta enable the YouTube integration. I think that worked.
Yeah.
Uh,
YouTube
YouTube.
intro.
Yo,
Oh,
let's go. Whereby I like this app. This is sick. This shit's crazy. Watch this. Yeah, notice the different languages. Yeah, it's pretty wild. This is just her on a bus. But this is how loud it's going to be. So can I stop it? Okay, cool. Just experimenting with some new features. Um, but yeah, this whole video is really fire. This one artist, his name's Kelchi Masuda. He's like just working on this stuff.
Wow. It seems that I'm like, damn, is that the future we want?
I don't think so, man. It's gonna be
It's
like,
very cluttered. If you think about how
yeah,
cluttered people feel now
right.
with devices, it's like,
Yeah.
damn, that seems so cluttered.
Dude, it's just a fire hose coming in all the time. Like
Yeah.
all these things that happen on our devices, just constant serotonin being hit. And the smartest people, a lot of them being at Facebook and these big companies, their whole MO is to trigger that serotonin to get you more engrossed into these apps. I mean, even think about like stuff like Instagram. You know, they make it free because, I mean, I don't even know how much money they make per user, like on
Mm,
Instagram. You can just like have this
yeah.
perpetual rollout of ads, and then from a company's perspective, you can control both supply and demand. Like
Yeah.
it's a very baffling thing. Like during COVID, like all the user acquisition costs for Facebook and for Instagram have just been like all over the place. And it's like, what are the real factors controlling these these costs? Because you have Facebook controlling both the supply and the demand side within the application.
Mm,
It's like they created this marketplace and are now having companies bid for your attention based on their own arbitrary internal metrics without any regulation, which is crazy if you think
yeah.
about it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I think they kind of set the bar, set the standard for, big tech companies that don't monetize initially, right? Because
Yeah,
what they're doing is setting up this ecosystem so that they can eventually have that control of both sides of the equation.
yeah. I was reading about Mark Zuckerberg and his decision to acquire Instagram. It was like
Mm,
weeks before the Facebook IPO. Pre-IPO, he acquired
wow.
it, and he dropped $1 billion cash on it before they went public, and everyone said he was fucking crazy for doing that. So it's like everyone in retrospect, even like you go back and read the articles of like these stupid acquisition of Facebook or
Mm,
Instagram, which at the time like $1 billion was novel,
yeah.
and that was just really interesting, that retrospective and just that long term thinking by a guy
Yeah.
like Zuckerberg.
Mm. I also like have you seen their or noticed their new branding?
No, I haven't.
Like when you open Insta, when you open WhatsApp, it just gives you like the powered by Facebook or something.
Oh yeah, the bottom. I noticed that actually.
And you see that font and that like that's a new wave. They did some
Yeah,
branding work before.
I mean, but that's it, right? Like all the
Yeah,
teams are still, as far as I know, still siloed for the most part, like between WhatsApp and
yeah,
Instagram. Probably Instagram less so because now they have like the ad network integrated. But from my knowledge, WhatsApp is still kind of on its own island over there.
yeah, for sure.
And
Man, that company's got a lot of stuff happening.
yeah,
A lot of stuff being created. I mean, even if you think about something like React, right? And just
yeah.
they maintain that, and
Mm.
as well, which is something that they're kind of creating the future.
I
And a
mean,
lot.
I feel like that's one thing you can't see as a business layman is React and these underlying libraries, which are now powering the modern
Yeah,
internet, as well as now React Native,
yeah,
right? which is
Exactly.
now cross-compatible. So apps are being powered by it, websites are being powered by it, and now they have like React OS. I don't know if you've seen that. It's a whole fucking operating
No,
system for Windows,
seriously.
built in React. Yeah, you can run it
What?
in an Electron instance. Yeah,
What?
it's sick. Yeah, it's just like some open source dude doing it for funsies. And on top of that, you have React VR. So now you have this sort of underlying library, which has now been adopted by most major tech companies and is now the underlying technology for the new technologies, which
Yeah.
Facebook controls. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like this interesting like consolidation. That's just something that people don't think about. Like when you look at the
Mm.
power of a lot of these institutions, it's a lot of it is now driven by who are the forward thinkers in terms of the libraries, the underlying technologies for everything.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
Like
Um,
a lot of the moats, I feel like when you look at a company, it's like the guys who are really winning today, they own the choke points. It's the choke points for your searches in Google, the choke points for your advertisements in Instagram and Facebook. But there's also choke points for engineers in the form of these standard libraries where we're being like forced by a demand perspective to pick up and run with these new paradigms that the people aren't really looking at.
yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Like you said, I mean, a business layman would not even be able to grasp like the magnitude of that sort of play, right?
Yeah, but I mean, even React, I feel like if someone who's been doing front end development for a decade, was the first time I felt like I understood and could implement component-based front end architectures.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if that was the ethos behind the tool, but like that was a big paradigm shift from like jQuery, where everything's running on a single thread, right?
Yeah.
There's no encapsulation in jQuery. It's like all these like
Exactly.
weird libraries that you didn't really know how they interacted. Versus React, you have all these individual like almost like miniature apps within the app itself.
Mm, yeah. And it was Angular, did Angular come out before React?
Way before, yeah.
Right. So was that kind of the first intro to component-based front-end development?
Well, so there's one thing that React says all the time, and it's like React is a library, not a framework.
Not a
That's like
framework. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Angular, by contrast, is very much so a framework. Like it has everything batteries included, including like in at least Angular 1, they have like version control already baked in. So it's very opinionated.
Right.
Versus React, where they're like, okay, like all your state management, like we have some internal tools, but we're going to leave that to other libraries, which gave birth to Redux, right? Where you had like for the first time some real state management that was happening outside the React ecosystem. Now, what's interesting is like Redux is kind of on the down, is like going down and being integrated back into React via now native APIs because they realize it's probably best to encapsulate that in the framework too. Um,
Mm,
but I think that everything that can be built in JavaScript will be built in JavaScript one day.
mm.
It's going to be the global language to build everything, and then you're going to have these compilers that will compile it to the necessary platforms,
Mm.
with the
Wow.
strong exception of these gaming platforms like Unity and what's it called, Unreal Engine. That's a whole different paradigm.
Yeah. I guess it is heading in that direction, right? Just with JavaScript. I think in a lot of different aspects of development, it can go toe to toe with anyone. On the server side, on the front end, like I think it can stand toe to toe with anything that exists already.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, up until augmented reality, right? But just based on
yeah,
the projects I've seen coming out of Facebook, like React VR, they're going to make sure that the paradigm of React and that control and that power of wielding that library and those developers and pushing them in a certain direction, they're not going to lose that with this paradigm shift.
yeah, they have React. They have an AR. They have something. They've No, I don't know if it's official. Maybe. No, I don't. It doesn't look official. I think that was.
I think they I think they have it, but I'm not again. It's that's the thing with React. You're never sure if it's like natively supported just because the demand is so high.
Yeah,
Developers are so familiar with the paradigm, they can now take the same concepts in which they apply front end development to, and then compile it to whatever they need. Right?
yeah,
Like
Yeah.
everything's just user interface plus some state management with styles thrown in, and then it can even be compiled too. So
Yeah.
I don't see the state of front end development changing anytime soon, with the exception, big exception, of no code. But a lot of the no code components are built in React. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you just drag and dropping React components into your front end build.
Yeah. I haven't seen too much no code that provides that level of um, interaction, like that level of interactivity that some of these front end frameworks allow with that state management, right? Just things kind of moving and grooving in real time. It still seems very non-Ajaxified, the no code world.
You want to know something? You know what I find really interesting is a really good example. Take a look at Fortnite Creative and
Creative.
how rapidly you have Epic Games, who are also the owners of Unreal Engine, one of the big video game creation platforms, how rapidly they're adding features, and people are building full-fledged worlds that are programmed within Unreal Engine and within Fortnite creative mode. It's pretty fucking spectacular.
Wow.
Like the stuff that they're making. And you can even see like an early example of like Minecraft doing that with code blocks integrating to the game. Where you can have like there's a kid, I'm not sure if he's a kid, but I just imagine everyone playing Minecraft is kids, but they're not. Is a guy who he created a memory within Minecraft. So in Minecraft, he actually created fully functional, fully isolated RAM using Minecraft components in the game.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like you think about that for a second.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like completely separate to Minecraft and can only exist within that new context, which is
Wow.
fascinating. Um, so I do think like in terms of like web interfaces, maybe there is some stuff missing. Like Zapier, I feel like is really good in terms of doing like because we're always like it's always cause and effect for people who are no code. We don't think like nobody who's never coded and been like, man, I really could use state management right now.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why like the metaphor of like zaps or connections makes a lot of sense to the non-engineer.
Yeah. It's like trigger action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like X needs to connect to Y, and like you have to create this cause and effect relationship, whereas state management normally doesn't work that way. Right. There is some like we always try and think of it that way, but it's like the underlying complexity of state management usually means you're integrating many different endpoints and many different consolidated pieces of data into what the user sees. And it's order of a magnitude more complex than X and Y. Like this X happens, Y happens. It's normally like you have your state object, and then off that object, we then render different views.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, have you seen Facebook Horizon?
Oh, is that their like their second life?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
they're also a lot. It's similar to Fortnite Creative or Minecraft in that people will be able to construct and build their own worlds.
Yeah.
It's like Second Life 2.0. When you're in a virtual reality, right? I think it's interesting, man. I'm really excited about the prospect of virtual reality when it comes to social inclusion.
Yeah.
People that normally in a physical context wouldn't have regular access to community because of any reason, right? It could be a disability, it could be age, it could be, but
Yeah.
there is a huge social inclusion piece to that. And then have you seen what their reality labs are doing with the hybridization of AR and VR?
At
Like,
Facebook?
yeah, maybe. How does this YouTube thing work?
You just go to share.
Dude, I sound like an old person.
I know, dude. I feel like it. I swear we're getting there.
So how does this YouTube thing work?
Yeah.
Did I really just say that?
But you click the share button, and you have the YouTube button, then you pop in the URL. It's pretty simple. I think that's interesting because I feel like I've tried VR and unfortunately, like I'm one of the people who gets sick from it. I think I've told you
Mm,
this before. I get
yeah.
dizzy. Like I invested a couple $1,000 into a high quality gaming rig and an Oculus Rift when I was living in Ann Arbor just to put it on and discover this shit makes me want to vomit.
Wow.
So I do feel like augmented reality is the inevitability, and that's going to be the chance.
Yeah,
And
for
have you seen Apple? They actually released for their next conference. There was a Bitmoji in the middle of their invitation, and he was wearing glasses with a little red notification bubble on him.
What?
Yeah, dude, it came out a couple weeks ago.
No way.
It's like their hint of at their first play at augmented reality.
What? Yeah, I
Yeah,
think I'm bullish on augmented reality for sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Nah, fuck it. I'm not even gonna go down a rabbit hole looking for this thing. I'll send it to you at some point.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
so what do we want to do? It's 4:20. It's 4:20.
Yeah, we light up? We both take a hit.
My
Is
pen,
that?
my pen is like in the other house.
Oh yeah, mine's yeah. No, I've stopped doing marijuana as much. I find it's
Mm,
like I'm much more stable without it.
yeah,
But yesterday I had this CBD tincture. It's like 1-to-1
dude.
CBD
Yeah,
THC, yo.
yeah,
Hopped into a float tank, and that shit always makes me just whew, take off.
yeah. I have a yeah. I definitely have. This is the longest I've been in a place that has legal marijuana.
Right. Yeah, it's
Or
new for both of us, isn't it?
yeah, like this is the longest time. And it's been like 3 months. And it's interesting because when you have unlimited access, you eventually find you find your equilibrium. And
Yeah.
I've only been like hitting the pen like at night, and really just a 2-to-1 CBD THC.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I only recently discovered CBD, like, but CBD THC hybrid. Like, I've
Yeah.
only discovered
Mm.
the ones, 1-to-ones.
I think it's a good nighttime one. Like I was really into I did a lot of experimentation. In Michigan it was decriminalized. Dude, I was just sucking on my pen, hiking and floating for a whole summer. Like all I did was just hit my pen, code, float, and
Hell yeah.
repeat, and hike and repeat. And I was just alone the whole time and it was awesome. It
That's
was just, yeah, that was my introduction to legal marijuana. I'm like, this is great. Like, life in America is so much better. Like, with this shit. Like, why have we not been doing this before? I'm really curious to see, who will be the first Asian country to adopt legal marijuana.
Well, Thailand legalized cannabis production, I think
Mm,
for commercial purposes. I think primarily for export. I don't know, but Thailand definitely was the first Asian country to make any headway on legalization.
I feel like whoever does that first is going to have such a competitive advantage in the Asian domain,
Yeah, yeah,
especially if it's Thailand, man, because it's already a pretty great place to be.
it is, man.
It's just quality of life is so much higher. It baffles me how we allow alcohol and nicotine and all these other destructive substances in mass, but not marijuana, which it's very expansionary.
It is, yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, just that thought pattern of alcohol, cigarettes, okay, marijuana, drug. It's like, okay, well, tell me who's defining what a drug is here?
Yeah,
Like, who's defining what a drug is here? Because it seems pretty like to make that distinction, right? To say like this is no good, but alcohol, cigarettes, totally fine. It's
yeah.
interesting.
Well, I mean, actually, this brings us full circle back to the theme of the show. It's have
Hmm.
you saw the documentary 13?
Yeah.
The whole war on drugs and how it was positioned as a war against, keeping people sober was actually really gauged at the hippies and black people in America.
Mm.
You finally have this excuse of like this culturally embedded substance that's consumed by these two groups of people becoming criminalized, and as a result, all the shit that's followed, millions incarcerated.
Yeah, it's wild, right?
It's fucking crazy, man.
Man, the U.S. has 5% of the world's population, 25% of the world's prisoners.
Mm,
We have
damn.
1/4 of the world's prisoners.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a crazy thought.
Majority of whom are Black and Latino.
Yeah. Ah.
Wild.
I was just even knowing that, like as a society, how we just accept that and just say like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, those guys deserve it. Like what? There's more people in America who deserve it? Like what is it about America that it creates this area where we have more bad people, right? Because that's like that should be the cause and effect relationship. It's like, oh, we just have more criminals. But the truth is we have a system that's been designed in order to incarcerate these specific groups of people for
Yeah.
petty crimes. I mean, Elon Musk said it best, man. He even put it on Twitter. He's like, it's pretty fucked up that you have tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people in jail right now for marijuana created crimes. And on the other hand, you have now marijuana stores that are considered essential businesses.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, like how fucked up is that? Like these
Yeah.
dudes who had marijuana shops and like supporting their families who are in jail now see these guys making multiples of millions of dollars, and they're also can be opening through quarantine.
Yeah.
It's like it's not only shifted from being a criminalized, it's going to not only being a legitimate business, but an essential legitimate business.
For sure. And I would even argue that those people that are locked up now due to marijuana probably laid the foundation for legalization.
Totally.
You know, because they were like, if nobody smoked weed, then we would not have legal weed.
Mm.
And to get that weed, someone sold it to them. You know,
Yeah.
like that was the basis of legalization at some point, and now they're still behind bars.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
wild, man.
to be fair, I know New York did some work, as well as I believe Seattle, where they released any petty offenders for marijuana crimes. So some
Nice.
cities are taking upon themselves in order to rectify these newfound paradigms we find ourselves in.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, is there something I mean, the problem is that even when you're armed with that information as a society, it's like even with that, what are we really even doing about it?
Mm.
Like the cards feel very stacked against us in terms of like problem and then systematic change into solution.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels far reaching, right? To think about systemic change at an individual level in this country. But I think we have power in numbers. We have power in numbers. One thing that this, I don't know if I told you, but one thing that this whole situation has got me really thinking about is voting. And not obviously, I think presidential voting is a given, but I think voting at the state and local levels. But I think a problem with that is I don't actually think we have the best candidates running. Period. Like, so you're telling me the 16 people who were in the primary, well, whoever was running, right? You're telling me those are the most qualified people? Probably not, right? But
Yeah.
a lot of people don't want to run. Like politics it's not made attractive to people. I don't have any friends that want to be politicians.
Right.
I cannot think of a single friend in my life who desires being a politician.
I feel like
a lot.
I think a lot of it, because in politics, it's a straight status game. Like it's
Yeah.
very defined, right? You have very defined lanes as well as structure. And I feel like a lot of the cats we've been hovering around, we don't really play status games,
Yeah.
right? Like, we play these collective games where we build things together to expand, not compete against each other for position.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a very different ethos.
A whole different approach.
I don't blame him, man. I frankly don't blame him at all. I wouldn't want to go anywhere near politics.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
I'm good.
Yeah.
But I think what's going to happen here is you're going to have somebody almost like a Donald Trump like um, figure, but from the opposite side, like more like a entrepreneur. You know, so like one of these guys, like Peter
Yeah.
Thiel or Naval, or so one of these like real high powered, really successful billionaires who come in and break the wheel. Because I feel
Mm,
like, like they saw what Donald Trump did under the guise of the Republican Party. But if you had a cat like Andreessen Horowitz, or one of these names that has the technology following, coming in and starting a third, a fourth, a fifth party, I feel like that's going to be the real catalyst for change, and really the long tail effects of Donald Trump being in office. I have a very controversial opinion on this, actually.
mm,
Um, I feel like Trump showed the way in a lot of ways.
mm.
Like you're going to have a lot of very high powered people um, who see what this guy did and say, "Hey, if he did it, I can do it too. Like
For
I
sure.
can achieve this systematic change that I want to see in the world and really come into my own power in my own way."
Mm,
That's why, like, even during this last election cycle, every billionaire had to have like a release statement saying, "Hey, I'm not running for president." You got
yeah.
guys like Bloomberg, like Schultz from Starbucks, who really gave it a legitimate shot. And I feel like that is the first step into creating and breaking this two party system that we've come to know in America.
That's a great point.
Yeah,
Have you seen The Great Hack, the documentary?
I came across it on Netflix, but I didn't click it.
Yo,
Is that
wow.
about Cambridge?
It's on Cambridge, and most of it focuses on their involvement with Trump's election campaign.
All right, but tell me this, like, okay, so I got another opinion on Cambridge Analytica as well, dude. From if you're an engineer and you're at Facebook of all places, and you have to manage, I don't know, how many API keys do you think they have outstanding right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
10 million, right? Like maybe I can't even conceptualize how many API keys are generated daily and how many people are hitting that big brain in the sky.
Mm,
Like somebody at Cambridge Analytica, under the guise of a student research firm, right? They had an API endpoint. They had a fucking API key with higher permissions, right? That was then used. How the hell would you monitor that? Like, can you imagine being the guy at Facebook responsible for it? Was probably all robotic. They probably signed up, or we're a studying institution, as they've probably done thousands of times before,
yeah.
right? It's just this one fell into the wrong hands.
Yeah. But they have a track record of working with, working with far right wing politicians in several countries around the world. Like they were involved in Brexit. They had, yeah, they were involved in like one of I think the Kenyan election or something. They had some stuff going on in Haiti. They were like pretty involved in these things. And honestly, I mean, I don't necessarily, I need to rewatch it, but I don't necessarily know if they broke any laws per se. I think they just utilized the shit out of Facebook's ad platform and its
Mm,
ability to target people,
mm,
and really swayed people and really got people to buy in, which, Facebook as a platform allows that, right? It allows you to
right.
advertise things to
Encourage
people
it.
and target people.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, it's marketing.
Well, frankly, I think the way's been shown in terms of how to resolve that. Twitter did it. They banned all political ads.
Wow, nice. Yeah. I think that's the move, because then you start to really cross hybridize like commercial interest and government. And then it's
Yeah.
like it's I don't think those two should really be in bed together.
Oh, I think it's also interesting, like the Facebook move to create their own self-policing force. You read about that?
No.
They have a separate entity from Facebook who will review and moderate a lot of their content and a lot of their decision making around what is okay and what is not okay separate from Facebook. And I
Wow.
think the intention behind it was, did you see recently, like Zuckerberg coming out saying, hey, we're not blocking Donald Trump? I feel like, well, Mark Zuckerberg came out and said, hey, like the same post was cross-posted Twitter and Facebook from Donald Trump. Twitter, really interestingly, hid the tweet. Twitter
Wow.
hid the tweet and put a disclaimer on there saying, this is based on our AI, this message is from Donald Trump, can provoke hate. So we're blocking it, but if you click this button, you can still read it because we think it's important to keep it in the public domain.
Wow.
Which was the stance, right? That shit was also posted to Facebook, and Facebook did nothing. And Mark Zuckerberg came out and said, it's not the job of the entity, private entity who controls the pipes, to police the information going out. Now, that was a mistake because they already established in Facebook this non-bias sort of third party to create and determine these decisions separate from the leadership in Facebook. But he ended up coming out and having to comment on it because Twitter did something about it and he did not right away.
Wow.
But again, it's the choke points, man. These are now the most powerful entities on planet Earth. The people who control the pipes. And it's no longer governments.
Yeah, I agree.
With the strong exception of China, but that's a whole different conversation. They have a whole other fucking system. Yo, China's crazy. I was reading about their AI setup. Do you know anything about how they set up their AI?
The government?
Yeah.
No.
This is fascinating. So there's an island off the coast of China, at least this was reported, where they have invested multiple billions of dollars into data centers where all the information for every single person in China and beyond lives. So the government said, hey, private companies, you guys can create your AI systems and we'll invest in your AI company, but all of your data lives on our servers controlled by us on this island. Okay?
Wow.
So the discussion around who owns all the data is over. So it's twofold. One, China owns all the data, and two, is a new AI company starting up in China by a Chinese citizen. They will fund you, and you can tap into the multiple billions of records around AI that exist in this centralized database.
What?
And the thing is about these AI platforms, it's not really so much about the models that are being trained. Like, those improve every day. Obviously, that's like a huge part of it. But the difference between this model and this AI and this AI is really the data, the quality of the data in which it's trained on. And the truth is, every single Chinese startup who has access to that pool of data on that island that's controlled by the government, they have a material advantage over every American-based AI company because we have so much of these privacy laws that aren't set in place. We don't really know who owns what or what is ethical, what is legal to use. Versus China, it's like, yo, use fucking everything. And here it is, right?
Dude.
We're losing on that front for sure.
I was gonna say, what's the idea you had earlier that you said you were gonna say?
Oh, yo, this is interesting. Couple of things. So yeah, I popped into a float tank yesterday, and I'm gonna save you the preface on like how I got to this point. This is just a lot, but one of the ideas came out of it was, what if you created an Instagram for APIs? So I could actually npm install or install into my web app or my no-code service and just do like an @Instagram, @Facebook, @Elijah, @no NDAs, whatever, you pull the information. So it's a standard API for everything.
Whoa.
So we can consolidate all the world's information into just one channel, one open network of APIs where it's a standardization of every single API on planet Earth, and companies can participate in a free will.
I think it's a powerful concept.
You give it to everybody.
The standardization on the technical side is more or less already there, given JSON, right? It's like it kind of creates this standardized format, right? Or XML as well, right? But more JSON, and I think that already exists, right? That's already the standard. So I think
Right.
having that, it's just riffing off of that and putting it into something that has, yeah,
But think about
for
think about the
different APIs. That's powerful.
think about the millions of different paths you have to take when it comes to installing these libraries to get to the JSON,
Yeah, yeah,
right? To actually get to the data object
yeah,
representing a user on X, Y, and Z,
yeah,
right? I feel like even if you had it like in the code base, I could do like an at symbol, target the API, then dot, whatever their notation is, and let companies participate because every code base and back, comes standard install with this sort of thing, that we could create a kind of global data structure, right?
yeah.
So everything can live in one master repository that has best standard and practices on it,
That would make things so much easier.
right?
Yeah, it would make things a lot easier. What do you think about keys?
I feel like it just be
Like web
open,
tokens?
give
Or
it to
just
everybody.
okay.
I don't know the structure of it. Like JWT, JSON Web Token would probably be the go-to.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like I'm the right person to talk about the architecture of how to best structure a
Right.
global API. I
Yeah.
feel like the next steps on this project would be like drawing it up so you can actually like conceptualize and see what I'm like trying to create, and then putting it out there and giving people the chance to make it.
Mm,
Um, but it makes sense from a lot of different perspectives, from an ease of engineering standpoint, from a data sharing standpoint, from um, just a number of different perspectives. I think inevitably we're going towards a globally shared interface. And I think the first step into that world should be in the form of sharing our data. Because we're always talking about like, oh, is it in China? Is it owned by Facebook? Is it Instagram? Is it Spotify? Is it LinkedIn? Well, if we have the open web, why can't we translate that into an open API? It's like every URL endpoint is available to be hit and to be interacted with. But what happens when we can actually translate that into the data as well?
yeah. Wow.
Because that's something that we could even crosses companies, crosses institutions, across borders, right? If you have all the data up and readily available, then you can be from anywhere and tap into it all the same. It's very it's non-bias.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Mm. Yeah, it's definitely powerful, makes things a lot easier. And it seems like, yeah, it's interesting. This concept of consolidation, just like centralization. And how centralization works in some cases and decentralization works in other cases. And I think
Mm,
in this case, like there's a strong use case for centralization.
yeah. The truth is, I feel like the world's if we're having this privacy battle, I feel like and that's a whole other conversation. But I feel like we should be able to participate and me give up my data should I choose to. And even having a standard format of that where it can like tag a company like Instagram or Facebook as easily as I could tag Elijah or Nick would
Mm.
make for some very interesting next level user interfaces.
Yeah, yeah,
Because then it even can become a structure where it's like, what do I want to share, right? Like, what is the company, like, what is it that my many different web apps have to offer to the world, or my personal data? Um, and in every company can ask themselves that same question.
mm, yeah.
But like,
Wow.
rebuilding our world, everyone talks about doing it like in Second Life or in like these new paradigms in virtual reality. It's like, well, why don't we have an accurate or as accurate as possible representation of our own world in data?
Wow. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. It
Yeah, it
makes
is an interesting concept.
Yeah. And then obviously like my mind went to like, oh, like how do you monetize it? Like how do you do that? I'm like, I feel like it's just the principle, like the principle of open data sharing under like dude, if you can make it so I could have an app where I have like the list, because this is what every app tries to do. It's like, oh, our integrations, right? It's all like these custom built weird side integrations that take all this sort of customization. But if I could in one API endpoint actually just have like a fucking list of every single app and whatnot, and then click like Facebook, Graph, conservatives under the, like, and just get that data that way, it could literally like revolutionize and standardize all API integrations across the board for every company globally for the ones who are willing to participate.
Mm. Yeah, I see the vision.
It's like a global Airtable. Everyone gets a sheet on Airtable. How easy would that be?
Wow. I see the vision. Dude, you know what's been sticking with me is I remember we exchanged a couple voice messages about this evolution of the startup graveyard. I think it's such a good concept. Just like packaged up consulting hours plus whatever work's been done. Yeah, you remember that?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
So this is what I feel like is happening. If you go on GitHub and you actually there's actually a Google BigQuery instance of everything on GitHub that's like updated, I think, on a weekly basis. If you actually ran a query to see how many of the repositories on GitHub have not been touched in the last 2 weeks, I bet it'd be 98% of it.
Wow.
I mean, obviously this is an assumption. You could actually figure this out if you wanted to.
I would say so, if not 99.
So I feel like there's like kind of two iterations of the idea. The original incarnation of this was you have things like Product Hunt, where it's like, oh, like look at this shiny thing, I made it, I'm gonna make it work, right? I think we should do the opposite of that. Instead of Product Hunt, you do Product Shit, where this is the shitty web app I threw together in my underwear because I didn't want to start my coffee maker in the morning. You know what I mean? Like, and so I was thinking like even like an opposite of Product Hunt, where it's like rather than have an upvote button, you have like a poop emoji. So the shittiest app wins, right? Like the most useless thing you could possibly make can win. But the truth is, like a lot of those shitty pieces of code that a lot of us hack together in our own little, cells as engineers, they never see the light of day. They're never fully utilized. And even it's interesting because I'm not even fucking with you, 5 people over the course of the last year approached me about building a contractor as a service platform. So you can call an electrician, or you can call in, one of our mutual friends is trying to do this. And then we have another buddy, Zach, who built a company called 1-800-PROS a couple years ago, fully functional Rails app, worked on the web, had an beautiful admin console, as well as an iOS app, all built by himself. He worked on this shit for, I don't even know how long, 6 months to a year.
Yeah, I remember him at Dojo working on it.
All the time. And it actually made money. That's the funny part. It's like he put it out there and he ended up making a couple $1,000 from it. And so he just got burnt out, man. And so now you have this what I would say is a $100,000 code base, as well as app deployed to the App Store, just sitting there going unutilized.
Yeah.
And on the other end of the spectrum, you have these guys who, I've had just personally in my own endeavors, 5 people approach me saying, hey, like I want to build a platform that sounds extremely similar to 1-800-PROS that Zach built. So if we could actually take all that code base, that burnt out developer, package it in such a way where it's like you get 10 grand for the code base, and then another 10 grand for retainer, right? And you have that as being like a digital good for sale. It's like that hybrid model where you're not only getting the competent code base, like complete with the demo, you can actually see it working. You also get the developer to help advise along the progress on the application for N number of hours.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then it's a combined package. It's a product, right? You're productizing the knowledge with the, with the technical, whatever it is, software, right?
Right. And I think even it demonstrates that the developer you're hiring has enthusiasm for the problems you're trying to accomplish. And I believe that enthusiasm is worth 30 IQ points. Like this guy, actually, a lot of the guys who try to do this, they're indie developers who might not necessarily have the marketing, might not necessarily have the capital, all the other components that are needed to make this. Because usually it's like we find the developer, we define the scope, we build a platform, versus now you have the developer plus platform combination. And you're skipping 6 to 8 months of learning in order to just get to the point where you can build. It's almost like the tiny capital model. Like I see these fucking Twitter ads running all the time. This guy Andrew Wilkinson runs these ads. It's like, yo, you have a friend who has a good online business they want to sell. You make the intro. We like them. We'll give you $50,000. Right?
Wow.
This would be very similar, where it's like you have somebody coming up with a prompt of, do you have a friend who's built a pros on demand platform? We'll give them $20,000. We're going to acquire the software as well as their expertise in moving the software along.
Mm.
And developers are going to love this because they'll end up getting, probably, if they know how to negotiate, end up getting an equity piece in it. All the work they did was not in vain.
Yeah.
And their platform gets to see the light of day.
Exactly. Which is one of the big things, right? It's like we spend so much time on some of these things that, you know, no longer exist or have life, right? But we put so much into them. You know, think about all the time spent.
Dude, it honestly makes my heart hurt even thinking about it. Like the number of things in my personal mental graveyard is just it hurts, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I have all these ideas, but you know, it's a whole. You need a number of different pillars to execute. And a lot of time, like a lot of guys who are just coding something for fun, they're not always ready to actually take it to the level of sustainability.
Exactly.
And on the other end, you have people with, you know, very sustainable people who have capital, who are willing to pick it up where it left off and run with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, something like baton code. Like pass it, like pass the baton. Yeah, but it's interesting because like even a lot of the online platforms I see work, they're usually like, oh, buy this theme, right? Buy this buy this design asset. Versus this would be like, you know, buy this code base, all these integrations.
Yeah.
But it's not worth fucking anything unless you have the original author.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I take that back. It's worth a lot more with the original author.
For sure. Yeah. Tons. Yeah, I think. Well, that's definitely got to go in the newsletter.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. That's an idea that needs to be flushed out.
Yeah, for sure. You know,
honestly, man, I was thinking about it in the float tank. You know what my dream is with this thing? This is my metric for the success. I want to draw something, have an idea, put it into the world, and have somebody build it and be successful with it. Like that would be a dream come true. Somebody takes this crazy shit that I'm constantly sitting here ideating and turns it into a digital reality. That would make all this fucking shit we're doing worth it. For me personally.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's just there's so many amazing ideas, and I feel like there's so many opportunities. Like even what we just described, it's like, dude, go to Hacker News and pop that in there. Be like, hey, do you have an old code base you're willing to sell? How much is it worth? I mean, how many? I can only imagine how many responses you get.
Yeah.
You know, now that I think about it, that could even be the proof of concept. It's like, hey, here's the idea, and here's the validation for the idea.
Yeah, for sure.
The validation would be an interesting component to
that, because that adds a ton more value to the concept.
Right.
Yeah, I think that kind of 2 or 3x's it for sure.
Yeah, because it's like, don't take our word for it. It's like, just look at, you know, it's interesting even talking to you one-on-one about this stuff, because I feel like one of the things that we know way better than most people is the technical landscape. So a lot of the stuff we're talking about has this like technical sort of take on things that not many people are gonna have.
Yeah.
But man, that's a fucking splitting head migraine. It's like, I just dumped 3 years into this. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to think about it. Man, what the fuck do I do with it, yo?
Yeah, dude, because man, because it's good, and it solves a problem, and
Yeah.
you're just like, I have no steam for it anymore.
Yeah.
I just have no steam for it anymore.
And for every one piece of code that works, I'd have to imagine there's multiple billions of code that does not. Like literally, just for every one that's in production and actually doing something, there's 100,000 that look just like it somewhere sitting there and being unutilized.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's finding that hybrid relationship between like, okay, you have the technology, but also having the person responsible for it who can use it effectively. I listened to this amazing TED talk by this woman. She talked about treating coding platforms like coworkers.
Wow.
So if you had a coworker that was sitting in the corner with nothing to do, going completely unutilized, and doesn't feel like they have a place, what would you do with them? You probably go over and be like, "Hey, man, like, how can I help?" You'd interact with them or train them up and try and get them up to speed and get with the program, or let them go. Right? Like that's really the two options. And what she proposed is treat all of the software you work with like your coworker, and make sure that they're getting the right attention. You have regular reviews, so like they're providing what's needed, and they're being integrated into the team properly with the proper onboarding and the very clear evaluation and that North Star of what are our common goals.
Right. That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
That is a great analogy.
And I feel like this is an extension of that, like the idea we're kicking around here with the baton passing, where it's like, okay, I have this amazing coworker who I built, this bot, right? This encapsulation of my specific genius to solve the specific problem, but I'm not the right coworker. I'm not the right manager for this person. I admit that. But maybe there's someone out there who is.
Yeah.
Man, it would be so cool, because what happens today is like we have a problem for the company. I'll go to like, nowadays, because my current clients on Shopify, I'll go look for a Shopify app, right? All these standardizations. It would be really amazing if I could not only go to look at the Shopify apps, but also go to a storefront for these code bases and for these incredible engineers who've dedicated time to these code bases to then engage them to build the right custom solution. I can tell you right now, we need a native quiz. Anyone who's built a native quiz, right? Like you go to the website, you answer questions, and then suggest to purchase something, I'll buy it, right? The other thing is build your own bundle software. So taking all these different products off the shelf and turning them into a bundle, and then be able to like buy or subscribe to that. If anyone's ever built that for any freaking platform, like come talk to me. And those are things I know I have budget for and can pay for today.
Yeah.
Because it is a risk. Because you're not only risking when you hire a developer, it's like, is this guy competent and can build? This answers that question. It's also a risk of, can I properly scope this out? Can I properly design this out? Right? So you're actually mitigating risk by paying the premium for the developer plus code base that comes with them.
100%. I mean, I would use it. Like
I would 100%.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
That would be the first play. If I was starting a startup or building a product, that would probably be the first resource I'd go to.
Yeah.
Like think 100%. About how valuable that is, right?
I mean, that's how you found your co-founder.
Phone consultation.
Yeah.
Because Calendly, payments.
Right.
Calendly has an API. They're already hooked up with Stripe. They have a Stripe integration. So even just like hopping on the phone with Zach, for example, if we take the Zach example, even a phone consultation with someone like that is valuable at the start.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this would be the go-to place for new product research, for finding co-founders, for getting examples of code and demos in the open. It feels like it would attract the right mix of people that can make shit happen in the world.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a home run. It'd almost be like Theme Forest, but for code bases.
Yeah, exactly. And that could probably be built with no code.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Sure.
no code right there. Yeah.
I mean, you have the private GitHub library. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's just a link, a link to the repo, use Calendly and Stripe. You want the phone consultation, so you can
Yeah.
do that in the code.
Yeah. They also maybe we can save it for next week, but I feel like that's a good place to end this thing because I know we want to do an hour. What do you
Yeah,
think?
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think we just rinse repeat next Thursday.
Yeah.
Um,
Even if it's just us two kicking this around, this is the
yeah,
start.
yeah, for sure. This is it started already. It started
Yeah.
last week with
Yeah.
Irfa, and it's
Yeah.
going
Urfa.
now.
Did she say which charity she wants?
No, I'll ask her today.
Okay.
But yeah, it's rolling now. And then yeah, at some point I think we should hop on and just riff on some ideas because I have quite a few seeds,
Yeah.
and I think it would be good to just run them past and kind of riff on them to determine which ones we think have legs and should be sprouted.
Yeah. Let's do that. I mean, you have my Calendly link. Just
Yeah,
do it.
for sure.
Just set it up. We'll record it, and then we'll just make that number 3. Let's just keep
Yeah.
fucking record. Let's do everything in the open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I feel like that's the move. So even if it's like tomorrow, let's do it then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty, Carter.
All right, bro.
You still there, man?
Carter, Nick, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah. All right, guys. It's been real. All right, I'm gonna click the stop recording button.